They insulted you, and you felt that fire in your chest, didn't you? That quiet rage, that urge to respond, to prove them wrong. But what if I told you that's exactly what they wanted? Because here's the truth. In the world of power, reaction is weakness. And no one understood this better than Niccolo Machiavelli, the Renaissance strategist whose lessons shaped kings, emperors, and CEOs centuries later. Machiavelli once wrote, "Men must be either crushed or indulged." Sounds dark, right? But hidden beneath that cold logic lies one of the most dangerous power lessons ever taught: how to turn insult into invisible dominance. So the next time someone disrespects you, pause. Don't defend, don't explain, watch, analyze, control, because the moment you master your silence, you become untouchable. Welcome to Mr. Red Frost, where we don't just talk motivation, we sharpen it into strategy. Before we dive into this Machiavellian mindset, make sure you hit that like button if you're tired of reacting and ready to start ruling your emotions. Subscribe to Mr. Red Frost for weekly breakdowns on Stoic power, mental toughness, and timeless strategy. And hey, share this with someone who needs to stop letting insults run their life. They throw an insult and you feel it immediately. That sting in your gut, that urge to fight back, to prove something. It's almost automatic, isn't it? Like your pride grabs the wheel before your mind even knows what's happening. But here's the uncomfortable truth most people will never admit. The moment you react, you lose. Why? Because reaction is a public confession of emotional weakness. When you respond out of anger, they've already won. Not because their insult was true, but because it controlled you. Think about it. The second you argue, explain, or defend yourself, you're silently saying, "You have the power to make me feel this way." And that's exactly what a manipulator, a rival, or even a casual provocateur wants. Your emotions become their entertainment, your reaction, their confirmation that they matter. Machiavelli understood this centuries ago. He wrote about rulers and generals, but his insights apply perfectly to modern life. Insults, he believed, weren't random. They were tests to expose who's in control and who's not. Every insult is a chess move. They make a small attack just to see how you'll respond. If you explode, they've learned your weakness. If you explain, they've learned your insecurity. But if you remain composed, they learn nothing. And that's terrifying to them, because people fear what they can't read. They can handle your anger, but not your stillness. Let's be honest, we've all fallen for this trap. You get insulted online, and before you know it, your thumbs are typing out a reply you'll regret later. You get disrespected at work, and you start defending your reputation to people who weren't even listening. That's not strength, that's emotional dependence, giving others the power to write your story through your reactions. So here's the first shift. Stop treating every insult as an attack. Start seeing it as an opportunity to observe, an opportunity to study character, an opportunity to practice control. When someone insults you, they're not exposing you. They're exposing themselves, their insecurity, their frustration, their need for validation. Because powerful people don't throw petty words, they don't need to. Machiavelli would say, a ruler must learn to be both fox and lion. Meaning, be wise enough to spot traps and strong enough not to fall into them. When you refuse to react, you become unpredictable. Your silence forces the other person to face their own noise. And that's when real control begins, not through confrontation, but through composure. So next time someone tries to humiliate you, remember this: their insult is bait, your reaction is the hook, and your silence is the escape. That is the first step in turning emotional chaos into power, learning to let your composure speak louder than your ego. Because in a world addicted to reaction, calmness is rebellion. And rebellion, when silent, becomes respect. Niccolo Machiavelli wasn't obsessed with cruelty. He was obsessed with clarity. He studied human nature like a surgeon studies anatomy, not to admire it, but to understand its weak spots. To Machiavelli, insults weren't accidents. They were tools, small, deliberate tests of dominance, a way to measure who could be manipulated and who couldn't. He called it the art of appearing harmless while holding power. Because power, in his eyes, was never loud. It was quiet, calculated, invisible. Imagine this, a court full of nobles, whispering rumors, making subtle jabs at the prince. Everyone watches how he reacts. If the prince rages, he looks weak. If he punishes them too harshly, he looks insecure. But if he smiles, if he nods, if he lets them wonder what he's thinking, he owns the room. That's the shadow rule. Control perception, and you control reality. The insult itself doesn't matter, only what people see after it. Machiavelli understood that humans are emotional creatures, but societies run on appearances. And when appearances rule, self-control becomes your most dangerous weapon. In our time, the same game plays out, only the battlefield has changed. Now it's social media threads, office politics, friend circles, and digital comment sections. The insults are faster, sharper, and public. But the power dynamic, exactly the same. The one who reacts loses. The one who stays composed leads. Because he's the twist Machiavelli would whisper in your ear today. Let them speak. Let them mock. The louder they become, the more fragile they look. You don't fight back, you frame back. Let others see the contrast between your calmness and their chaos. That visual difference plants doubt. Not about you, but about them. And doubt, once seeded, spreads faster than any defense you could ever make. But let's go deeper. Why does this work so powerfully? Because humans crave control. When someone insults you, they're trying to pull your emotional strings. They want to define you. When you don't respond, you shatter their illusion of control. That's psychological warfare. And it's more brutal than any argument, because silence gives them nothing to feed on. Your calmness becomes the mirror reflecting their insecurity. They keep pushing, hoping for reaction, but all they see is stillness. Eventually, they start doubting themselves. Did I go too far? Why isn't he reacting? That uncertainty. That's your power shifting back to you. Machiavelli's shadow rule isn't about being cold. It's about being strategic. He wasn't teaching cruelty. He was teaching control. And control isn't about suppressing emotion. It's about directing it. When someone insults you, imagine it as energy. You can throw it back, waste it, or you can absorb it. Turn it into observation, patience, timing. Wait for the moment when silence does what words never could. That's not just Stoicism, that's Machiavellian mastery. So remember, when people insult you, don't look for revenge, look for leverage. Because when emotion burns out and calmness remains, power shifts. You've heard the saying, don't take things personally. But when someone targets you with disrespect, that advice feels hollow, doesn't it? Because words can cut, and pretending they don't isn't strength. Real strength is controlling what happens inside you when they do. That's where the Stoics stood apart. Marcus Aurelius, Epictetus, Seneca, they all faced insults, betrayal, and ridicule. But instead of fighting back with fury, they fought back with discipline. They believed that no one can truly insult you unless you agree with them. If a stranger calls you a fool and you know you're not, why bleed over an untrue word? Their opinion doesn't define you. Your reaction does. Epictetus once said, it's not what happens to you, but how you respond to it that matters. Notice that word. Respond, not react. Reaction is instinct, response is choice, and that S where your power hides, in the gap between what happens and what you do next. When you pause before reacting, something incredible happens. You separate yourself from the chaos. You start seeing the insult as data, not damage. You begin to think like a strategist, not a victim. That's the Stoic Counterstrike. You don't suppress your emotions, you command them. Let's make it real. Someone mocks you publicly. You feel that rush of heat, that impulse to lash out, but instead you take a breath. You let the silence stretch. Everyone expects you to explode, but you don't. You just look at them, calm, measured. That's not weakness, and that's psychological shock, because calmness in the face of attack feels unnatural to most people. It makes them uneasy. It makes them question themselves. And that's when you win, not through aggression, but through composure. The Stoics mastered this mindset because they understood one eternal law. If you can't control the world, control your perception of it. You can't stop people from being cruel. You can't erase the rumors or silence the critics. But you can decide whether those words enter your mind or bounce off your armor. That armor isn't pride, it's clarity. You start seeing people not as enemies, but as teachers. Every insult becomes a test of endurance. Every provocation, a chance to refine your calm. And the more you practice this, the more untouchable you become. There's beauty in restraint. It's the quiet confidence that says, I could destroy you with words, but I choose not to. It's knowing you could win the battle, but you'd rather win the war within yourself. When you stop needing validation, no insult can touch you. When you master your emotions, no manipulator can move you. That's the Stoic counterstrike. Not silence from weakness, but silence from control. Not cold detachment, but focused power. And here's the paradox. The more you practice this discipline, the less you care about proving it. Because real power doesn't announce itself. It simply is. The most powerful person in any room is rarely the loudest. It's the one who says little, but makes everyone adjust to their silence. Machiavelli called it playing with perception. The Stoics called it mastery of self. But to you, it's what I call invisible power. Because real control isn't about domination, it's about direction. You quietly guide emotions, conversations, even outcomes, without anyone realizing you're doing it. Let's start with your body language. When someone disrespects you, your first instinct is to tense up, jaw tight, shoulders stiff, eyes narrow. But if you stay relaxed, if you lean back, breathe slowly, and maintain that steady gaze, you flip the dynamic instantly. They expect a reaction. You give them presence. That subtle shift tells everyone watching, I'm not threatened. And people gravitate toward composure. They sense stability in it. It's why great leaders never rush to respond. Their pauses create tension, not from weakness, but from weight. Every second of silence makes others wonder what you're thinking, what you're planning, what you'll do next. And that uncertainty is power. Then comes tone. If you ever need to respond, do it slowly. Low voice, steady rhythm, no unnecessary words. Machiavelli would say, a wise man never lets his anger be heard, only felt. When you speak calmly in the face of insult, it confuses your opponent. They expect chaos. You deliver calculation. They wanted to drag you into emotion. Instead, you pull them into reflection. That's how calmness becomes confrontation, because now they have to deal with the discomfort of their own behavior, while you remain unshaken. Next, timing. Power often hides in when you act, not how. Sometimes the smartest move is no move at all. Let them speak, let the moment breathe, and let your stillness make their words echo back on themselves. Other times, strike subtly, not with rage, but with results. When someone doubts you, don't defend your reputation. Just succeed loudly enough that their words dissolve in your silence. That's not revenge, that's reality correction. But here's a deeper layer, the one most people never see. Invisible power means you're not fighting for dominance, you're fighting for detachment. Because when your emotions belong only to you, no one else can weaponize them. Think of it like this. Every reaction you resist strengthens your internal gravity. People start orbiting around your calm. You become the fixed point in a world addicted to reaction. And that S, the secret Machiavelli and the Stoics both understood. Control yourself first, and the world bends around that control. So next time someone tries to test you, don't rush to win the argument. Win the atmosphere. Let your energy do the talking. Let your stillness make them question their own noise. Because when they realize they can't shake you, they start respecting you or fearing you. Either way, you've won. That's invisible power, the strength to lead without words, the authority that needs no announcement, the control that can't be taken, only maintained. There's a certain peace that comes when you finally stop chasing validation, when people insult you and you feel nothing, not pride, not anger, just awareness. That's the moment you've stepped into a different league of power, because most people live on emotional autopilot. They rise and fall with other people's opinions like leaves in the wind. But you've learned to root yourself. Machiavelli would call that the art of appearing unmoved. The Stoics would call it apatheia, freedom from disturbance. But in plain words, it's emotional sovereignty. No one owns your peace. No one controls your tempo. To become untouchable, you must understand something deeper. You can control people S-words, but you can make them meaningless. The insult, the mockery, the judgment, all of it only exists where your attention goes. If you stop feeding it, it dies quietly. That's not ignorance, that's dominance. Because the world expects reaction. It feeds on drama, conflict, noise. So when you don't play the game, you confuse the system. They can't classify you, they can't provoke you, and people can't manipulate what they don't understand. Let's be real. Being untouchable doesn't mean you feel nothing. It means you feel deeply, but you don't broadcast it. You use emotion as information, not instruction. When you're angry, you study it. When you're hurt, you analyze it. And when you're calm, you decide what deserves your energy and what doesn't. That's not numbness. That's precision. It's the same precision that made ancient emperors feared and modern leaders respected, because they understood that the strongest message a person can send is silence, paired with consistent results. To live this way, you'll need discipline. You'll need to train yourself to pause before reacting, to think before speaking, and to choose purpose over pride. But once you master it, the world changes around you. People start speaking differently in your presence. Conflict avoids you. Respect follows you, not because you demanded it, but because you embodied it. That's the paradox of untouchable power. You gain it the moment you stop trying to prove it. So when they insult you, remember this: the loudest voice is not the strongest. The calmest soul is not the weakest, and the one who walks away without a word often leaves the deepest silence behind. In a society ruled by reaction, being unbothered is rebellion, and rebellion, when done with grace, becomes legend. This is Mr. Red Frost, reminding you, don't seek revenge, seek evolution. Don't waste your energy proving worth. Spend it building power, because when you master your emotions, your silence becomes your roar. And in that silence, you become untouchable.